But yeah, we're gonna talk Reg-Eye. I'm gonna give my thoughts on some restricted duos. And I'm definitely gonna forget about one. You guys are gonna be like, Moxie Booster doesn't know anything about restricted duos because he forgot about Kyogre and Calyrex base form. Something like that. There's always one smart guy in the comments that's like, oh, I actually know the real sauce. And you do not. Somebody in the Discord server came up with a nasty looking Miraidon Kyogre team. What do you think of Kali Cosmog duo? We gotta ban this guy. Alright. So you might hear Jody in the background, but hopefully not. I don't think you are. Regulation is already ready to go. We can already build this. So, there are a couple of restricted duos that we could take a look at. I'm gonna ask you guys to comment some restricted duos you want me to talk about in particular, and that'll make it easier for me to go through my initial thoughts on the format. Yo, thanks so much for the subscription, Super Soldier. There's now 6. Pretty poggers. Alright, let's do a box. Regulation I. Alright, let's see what you guys have to say. This channel is partnered with GamerSupps. If you want to support my work and get great tasting drinks, you can order GamerSupps through my link in the description down below or with code MoxieBoosted at checkout for 10% off. GamerSupps is a caffeinated product that I recommend only to my 18+ viewers, but my link will send you to their caffeine-free product section just in case. Every product purchased through my link supports my channel financially, so I'd really appreciate the support. Now back to the video. Sun Mafia, Groudon, Koraidon, that could be crazy. We hear we don't really mind though, good. Alright. Let's do, I'll start off with some obvious ones. Kyogre, Ice Rider. I think that they were literally just, would do the same thing. So I guess Kyogre Calyrex Ice is pretty interesting. It's obviously like the combination of like special restricted and physical restricted. Kyogre is the type of Pokemon that like enjoys being in either Tailwind or Trick Room, but mostly Tailwind. And Calyrex Ice is definitely like a Tail Room sort of Pokemon. So I could actually see this being the case, where you see like sort of Calyrex, Kyogre, Tornadus. Pokemon Cornerstone's especially really good on this, just because of like the value you get from that. As far as things that they have trouble hitting together, I could see Miraidon being a little bit annoying, but it's not the worst, actually. Like, Miraidon, I guess, like, the worst matchup of this would be, like, Miraidon plus... Is it Double Bikes? I guess Double Bikes is, like, one of the worst matchups, but, like, Calyrex Ice deals with it so effectively that doesn't really matter. What do we think? So, probably just, like, Incineroar, or even, like, a Moongus here wouldn't be that bad. What would the last one be? I guess it's like whatever you want. Urshifu. I could see this being a team. This team looks pretty scary. Yeah, but no, this is actually pretty cool because Calyrex Ice is able to run Trick Room for itself, right? But also for the Kyogre, so you have like Tail Room options. You also have like Follow Me on like a sturdy Pokemon with like Ivy Cudgel. And then you just have like Incineroar Urshifu support. You can even put like double grass type like Rillaboom. That could be like pretty decent. What else can we talk about? I guess it's easier just to like do the team then. Whoops. All right, what else do we have to talk about? Dacian Crown, Koraidon, Kali-Izama. I actually don't like Kali-Izama. Here's the reason I don't like Calyrex Ice Zamazenta. I think Calyrex Ice Zamazenta is like interesting as a concept. Zamazenta does get coaching, but like the thing about Zamazenta is that like even though in previous restricted formats Zamazenta was sort of relegated to like a support position, that isn't necessarily the case anymore, and running Zamazenta basically just means that you throw a wide guard on him and like support the restricted through that exclusively. And I think that Kali-Izama is exclusively worse than Calyrex Shadow Zama, just because Calyrex Shadow Zama have like almost nothing that switch into both of them, especially since this thing's like hyper weak to Chi-Yu. Like Chi-Yu just sweeps through that. But like Calyrex Shadow Zama, that's actually what I'm gonna be testing later on tonight. Because you can just do like wide guard, right? Wide guard, body press. I would even drop protect on this, to be honest, because I just want to make sure I am able to keep like heavy slam. Wide guard, body press. Because what I actually want to try tonight is like running Imprison, because the thing about like Zamazenta is that if you end up going with like a really strange set like Jolly and like whatever EVs you really need to do what you need to do, that allows for you to like combo super well with Calyrex Shadow, because Calyrex Shadow really relies on not getting wide guarded on. So you can use like Astral Barrage and like protect, probably expanding force. Yeah, expanding force becomes a lot more reliable on there, but you could also just do like psychic or psyshock. Actually psyshock would be really good here because you could do like Astral Barrage, protect, psyshock. I'm not sure if I would do Calm Mind. I think I would actually prefer to go more on the offensive, so you could do like Life Orb. Sorry, Life Orb. What's your final move then? You do like Nasty Plot or like Substitute, right? And just go like super offensive. And then like your last mon's gonna be like Chen Pao. Because Chen Pao enables like Calyrex Shadow to hit Psyshock a lot harder. It also allows for body press stuff. But just being able to turn off every other Zamazenta Crowned, so they can't wide guard, and also just preventing wide guard entirely is like super duper cool. From that point on, it's just like what, like Incineroar, or I want a Tailwind Mon, so like Tornadus and like Urshifu maybe. Even like Indeedee. Actually, I guess you wouldn't run Indeedee if you have Chen Pao. Right? I guess it would actually be Rillaboom then. Rillaboom. And then like your last Mon is like interesting. Maybe like Incineroar. But this is one of the cooler teams I definitely want to keep an eye on. Obviously like Imprison is like a weird tech, but I think it's like really cool for like this sort of duo. Geno's doing their April Fool's UI again. Is it do we already have the April Fool's UI? It might update in the middle of the stream, to be honest, but you can also just turn it off. All right. Yeah, Pal Strength and Psyshock, since Psyshock hits you on your physical defense. All right. Who else do we want to talk about? Terapagos, Cali Shadow. I'm not going to lie, I think Terapagos is one of the few restricteds that gets worse in Duel. So Terapagos is an interesting restricted because it's sort of like, it's sort of farms teams that don't have fighting types. Like that's like, or it like forces the opposing team to like make the most of their fighting type and try to keep it like healthy to be in like a position to beat you. Because like that's the only thing that really chunks Terapagos like that are fighting types. And that's like your Iron Hands, that's your Urshifu. But like the amount of teams that are going to be able to like run a Zamazenta or an Urshifu a lot more easily just is so much. Like it's so much more difficult to get value out of Terapagos now because of that. But if I had to choose a Pokemon to run it with, it has to be a Pokemon that doesn't care about terrain or anything. So like the restricted that I would probably pair it with is maybe Lunala. Maybe Lunala. You don't want to pair it with Miraidon. You don't want to pair it with Koraidon. Zamazenta is like pretty good. Zacian's even pretty good. I actually would make an argument for like Terapagos Zacian. Because you could do like Regidrago. And like Tailwind Mons. Probably like Whimsicott. Yeah, because like Terapagos allows you to turn off like Psychic Terrain, so Whimsicott's able to do like Encore locks and stuff. Stuff like that, right? That's like not terrible. It's not the worst thing to do. Undead 25, thanks so much for the sub. Having major success with Koraidon and Lunala. I think Lunala, if there's a Pokemon we need to talk about tonight, it is Lunala. Like the amount of Pokemon that Lunala pairs with is absurd. Right? So like Lunala is kind of like old Zamazenta. So like Lunala sort of took the place of Zamazenta in single restricted this generation, because Zamazenta just could not carry itself in generation 8 single restricted, but it can because it has body press now. Lunala, it was like in a similar spot because it really can't carry itself, and it was able to sort of make up for it at the end of the format where Koraidon was like super strong. But the thing is that Lunala hates dealing with dark types like Incineroar. It hates dealing with Pokemon that just hit it for super effective damage. Obviously the ghost types it's able to like deal fairly well with, but Koraidon is such a good combo for it because Koraidon's like that hyper offensive like partner for it, where Lunala has like a number of sets it can do. It can run like in Tailwind, it can run like Trick Room, but I think that like if I were to run like Lunala Koraidon, it'd probably be like, I would definitely do Meteor Beam. I definitely think that like Power of Meteor Beam is like one of the best options here. I would probably drop Protect. I'd probably have like Wide Guard, and I think I would do like Expanding Force and like Moongeist Beam. Well, I guess that would be for like non-Power Herb sets. I guess you need to keep Wide Guard, so maybe you drop Expanding Force and you just go with Meteor Beam, because I'm like completely forgetting that you need that. I guess if you don't want Trick Room, you can do Expanding Force. You could like relegate Trick Room to a different Pokemon, but like you could pair it with like Indeedee if you really wanted to, and then do like the Expanding Force stuff. Indeedee female's not bad with this, but Yeah, I think this is interesting. I would actually argue that like Koraidon might not even be the best option for this. I don't think Zamazenta is like the best partner either, just because Zamazenta, maybe it is a good partner. I mean, like they both have wide guard. You can play like some wide guard mind games like that. It also frees up wide guard on Lunala, where you can actually afford just to drop wide guard for expanding force, and then you can do like Indeedee stuff. And since Zamazenta isn't like the fastest restricted compared to like, you know, Calyrex Shadow and like some certain like Tailwind restricteds, like it can sort of function in both. It is like pretty fast, right? It's like 128, but like it doesn't invest into that speed at all, or at least not a significant amount. This is pretty cool. Other things that Lunala obviously pairs well with, Groudon has been historically very good for it. Lunala Groudon's good because Lunala really appreciates Groudon stopping like Incineroar and other Pokemon that give it issues, like Ogerpon Hearthflame. Like if Ogerpon Hearthflame Terras, like it can just deal absurd amount of damage to Lunala. And I guess in Sun, it sort of makes it worse because you can like Mold Breaker through Shadow Shield and maybe one shot with a crit in Sun. So Groudon is able to like threaten that out, I feel like, Terrafire and stuff. But Groudon's just historically quite good for that because like, I don't know, it's just been like very solid, like these do. I could even see maybe people opting into like more hyper offensive options, like Chi-Yu here. Chi-Yu could be pretty interesting. Maybe drop that. Actually, let me build like a hypothetical one of these teams. I think that like Ogerpon Hearthflame is objectively very good here. Indeedee is also quite good, so like Indeedee female. You'd probably have to drop wide guard on this. You do lose that. Incineroar isn't bad, and I think your last mon would probably need to be probably like Flutter Mane. But like then you're like doubling down on your ghost types, which maybe isn't the best in this format since Cali Shadow is going to be everywhere. But that could be interesting. Chi-Yu isn't bad either, but then you have like triple fire. I don't know. What do we think? Double horse? You actually can't do double horse. Well, you can't do the double horse that you want. So if you don't know, you can't run Calyrex Ice and Calyrex Shadow. The reason is they're both Calyrex. For the same reason you can't run Necrozma Dustmane and Necrozma Dawnwings, right? Because they're both Necrozma. If you want to run double horse, you can do... I would argue the best double horse is probably going to be... Not Necrozma. Palkia. You need Palkia Origin, right? And then... Right, Calyrex Ice. Right, Palkia Origin would probably be worse than base Palkia though for this sort of setup because base Palkia is slower and better in Trick Room. But Palkia Origin does get a little bit better just because it's able to be ran next to a good restricted and not like a, you know, not on its own. I don't know, I guess we could explore Palkia a little bit. I do think that base Palkia is just objectively stronger in this format though, because like base Palkia, it doesn't lose its special attack, right? All it does is it moves that speed into its attack stat, right? So like if you want to do like Trick Room stuff, like base Palkia is just better. It also frees up the item so you can like Life Orbit or whatever. Trick Room is quite good. You have like Trick Room, Spatial Rend. Does it get Dragon Cheer? It doesn't get Dragon Cheer. Spatial Rend's still really good though. If you're really crazy, you could actually do the crit item. You could do like Razor Claw, right? And like crit Spatial Rends and stuff, but that's probably not like the best actually. I would actually argue that Terra Dark is a decent Terra for Palkia because it allows you to prevent Trick Room and also allows you to sit down on like Calyrex Shadow and go for the Trick Room. Also making it like a really good partner for like Calyrex Ice, like I said. But there are other Pokemon that could fit pretty well with Palkia. Kyogre is a halfway decent one. I mean, like, you definitely love having Palkia next to it, but you're gonna have to be landing your Hydro Pumps, which isn't good. Protect's also really good, but Palkia also gets like pretty decent coverage. Flamethrower. Flamethrower isn't bad. You could do like Terrafire. I've seen Terrafire, but yeah. Telepathy is also really good. I guess if you're running Palkia on like Trick Room, this would mean that you want like an Ursaluna with like Earthquake and stuff. And if you're doing that, then of course you need the Indeedee to overwrite like grassy terrain and stuff. So that could be interesting. Palkia is definitely going to be something that you have to cook with for a little bit to get value out of though. Sea Dragon, thanks for the subscription. Appreciate you. You also worry a lot about Mirai with those two. Yeah, I guess Mirai is like a really big issue, which is why you would need like Ursaluna. That being said, you could also try like Palkia Groudon. And Palkia doesn't need to run a water move. Like it's perfectly fine doing like Trick Room, Flamethrower, Spatial Rend. But then you probably want to be like Terrafire on the Groudon. I guess you could also do Terra Fire on Palkia. If you do Terra Fire on Palkia, though, you do need to choose probably a different Terra on your Groudon, maybe like Grass or something, to make it more reliable. And then, like, you don't really get to run Ursaluna, because there's not really a point in running Ursaluna. I think that, like, Palkia is probably best ran with Calyrex Ice, to be honest. And then you can fit the Ursaluna on there, and you're, like, Indeedee and stuff. Yeah, I guess, like, Palkia would be, like, a hard Trick Room type Pokemon. But at that point, if you're running Palkia, when do you just switch over to, like, Necrozma Dawn Wings, or, like, you know, Lunala? At what point do you do that? It's interesting. What else do we have here? Regulation I. Any other restricted duos you guys are wanting me to talk about? Kyurem White. What would Kyurem White be ran next to? Kyurem White's definitely a Pokemon that gets a little bit better, but the thing about Kyurem White is Kyurem White was only really usable on snow teams. So it would have to be a restricted that doesn't mind the snow and wouldn't overwrite the snow. So this like rules out, like, for the most part, Kyogre, Groudon, Terapagos. So it needs to not only fit well with Kyurem, it has to fit well with Kyurem as a roommate, dude. So I guess restricteds that would go well with that. You definitely don't want to keep the Farrier weakness. You don't want to keep the Farrier weakness. I guess, like, Zacian Crown isn't bad. Zacian Crown isn't, like, terrible. Zamazenta is also not bad. I think Zamazenta is probably the correct answer. Zamazenta is probably the correct answer. Yo, the Beam, thank you so much for the 17 months of members. What about Koraidon partners? Almost a year and a half as a member. Yeah, dude, I really appreciate you. You're one of the first members we had. It was before even, like, set up, like, rewards. We'll talk about Koraidon a little bit more in a little bit, but we're in the middle of Kyurem. So I guess, like, yeah, I guess, like, my first pick for a Kyurem partner would probably be Zamazenta, followed by Zacian. It appreciates the steel types to switch in on, like, fairy moves. I don't think you want Necrozma Dustman, obviously. Lunala is a pretty decent pick. But yeah, like, Pokemon that are just out of the question are going to be, like, other dragon types, since they just don't fit well. You could do Cali Ice, obviously, but, like, then you're, like, triple ice, and that could be kind of triple ice is, like, really, really risky. Because then you have to, like, burn your Terra to make sure you don't, like, immediately lose to Chi-Yu or whatever. I guess, like, this is why you would run, like, Terra Fire on your Calyrex, but, like, Kyurem White's always Terra Ice. Like, that's where it gets, like, all of its value from, is being Terra Ice, because you're able to run, like, Choice Specs or Life Orb Blizzard, which does stupid amounts of damage, right? This is definitely gonna be, like, another Ogerpon Cornerstone team, and I think that, like, you're gonna want to have, like, Tornadus here as well, because you need to manually reset your snow, and maybe just, like, Incineroar. I guess you need a fighting type, so it's probably just gonna be Urshifu, to be honest. It's weird. This is a weird restricted to talk about, and it's hard to find the right answer. As far as Koraidon goes, Koraidon definitely gets a little bit better. I mean, like, Koraidon Groudon's obviously a pretty solid duo. They're both physical attackers, which is kind of, like, rough. But with the recent influx of Koraidon running Life Orb, it makes it easier to use next to, like, Clear Amulet Groudon. And also, like, just having, like, Sun Up all the time is super cool. You get to do, like, just Sun Spam, Flutter Mane. You get to do, like, Chi-Yu here. You get to do... Not Chien-Pao. I guess Chien-Pao isn't a bad option, I think. You get to do, like, your Chi-Yu. You get to do your Raging Bolt, your Raging Bingus. And then probably just, like, Rillaboom. And that's, like, a really solid, like, team. Like, that's just straight up Sun hyper offense. I guess you could also try to drop Rillaboom for something like Venusaur if you really want to get crazy with it. But... yeah, this is definitely just... the Sun teams go kind of crazy. I know, like, MJ, my old channel artist, and my friend, he's probably going to be running this. It just seems like a very MJ core team. Koraidon Ho-Oh? Ooh, you're getting freaky on me. All right, Koraidon Ho-Oh. What do I feel like about this? How do I feel about Koraidon Ho-Oh? It's certainly a duo. I mean, like, Koraidon hates Flutter Mane. Ho loves Flutter Mane. You get, like, a good Tailwind Pokemon, and, like, Ho-Oh didn't like having to run Tailwind because, like, you prefer to have, like, more offensive moves on your restricted, and Ho-Oh felt, like, very passive because of that. I guess you would do, like, Life Orb or Clear Amulet on this guy. I guess you would do Life Orb there and Clear Amulet here. That's probably what makes the most sense, since Koraidon just gets so much damage immediately. The only thing is Koraidon outspeeds your Ho-Oh, so it's not like you do, like, support Sunny Day, but you get to do, like, Tailwind, you get to do Sacred Fire. You get to do Brave Bird and, like, Protect. Does that really help Koraidon, though? You're still extremely weak to faster Miraidon, and this only makes it worse. It helps you with fairy Pokemon. And I guess Koraidon covers well for, like, the Kyogre matchup. You basically need Rillaboom to make sure you don't lose to, like, Miraidon. But I think that you would prefer Groudon. Like, genuinely, like, if you had to pick one of these, it would just be Groudon to make sure you have, like, a better Miraidon matchup. I don't know. Ho is not in my top restricteds at all. Also, I hope, like, my voice comes through a little bit more clearly. I just want to make sure. All right. Let me see. What else do we have? Miraidon Kyurem Black. Ooh. Double Electric Dragon. I think the only Electric Dragons in the game other than, like, Raging Bolt. Here, let's just include Raging Bolt. Let's just include Raging Bolt so he doesn't feel left out. Are there any more I'm forgetting?
The early one because you used to be able to...
No, that's all of them. Technically, you could do this. You shouldn't. Why do I think you shouldn't run Miraidon Kyurem? It's for very obvious reasons, low-key. Why would you want Miraidon Kyurem? You lose to Fluttermane. You literally just lose to Fluttermane. Like, it's a pointless duo. Yeah, like, unironically, like, yeah, you can be, like, hard carried by the Miraidon on your team, but I'm not even joking. If I had to choose between getting to run a second restricted in this game, like, let's say I got to play a tournament in Regulation G, and they told me, hey, you can run a second restricted, but you can't run Iron Hands. I would say take away that Kyurem Black. Kyurem Black is stupid and pointless, and it's a bad Pokemon. You just run Iron Hands. Like, Iron Hands just does everything Kyurem Black does, but better. Literally just better. And it might be like you can't, like, compare them, but, like, if you have to run, like, a physical electric type, I'm always picking Iron Hands and not Kyurem Black. It's awful. I think that, like, if you needed to run Kyurem Black, if, like, someone literally said, like, hey, and they, like, held a gun to your head and said, do the Macarena, I would, like, who would you run with Kyurem? This mon sucks. Zacian, maybe? Zamazenta? You know, I guess the correct answer is just Zamazenta every single time. For every bad restricted, every restricted you think is complete doo-doo caca, just put Zamazenta next to it and you'll probably get a lot more further in the format than you think you would. Like, Eternatus, Zamazenta. Giratina, Zamazenta. Mewtwo, Zamazenta. Necrozma, Zamazenta. Yeah, like, this mon just carries bad restricteds. Kyurem Black isn't electric. You know, it'd be a lot better if it was. I know it's like ice type, but, like, unironically, like, why are you using, like, Kyurem Black? Like, I know it's not electric, but, like, that it might as well be. It might as well be. All right. How about a Miraidon Zam? Miraidon Zam's, like, very... I don't even think I want to talk about it because it's, like, so objectively strong. Like, Miraidon Zamazenta, you're able to block, like, Precipice Blades. You can block, like, Sancier Storm with your Wide Guard. Obviously, they do have that, like, shared ground weakness, but you can cover for that by, like, throwing on, like, Urshifu Rapid Strike and other Pokemon. It's just... It doesn't seem like it's something I really want to, like, get super into. Yeah, Zama's, like, going to be the workhorse. Like, I think I'm going to run Zamazenta all the time. Why not go Zekrom for a bad electric resisted? Oh yeah, sorry, I was thinking of, like, Zekrom earlier. All right, so if you have to run Zekrom, it has the exact same issues as Kyurem. I'm not even gonna lie. It has, like, the exact same issues as Kyurem Black. Like, Kyurem Black has 170 attack, Zekrom is like 150. It doesn't get, like, electric stab, and, like, Kyurem Black does, but, like, what are you using that for? Bolt Strike? You're using it for Bolt Strike? Let me show you guys something really cool, right? Fusion Bolt. Zekrom's, like, most reliable move is 100 base power, right? And you have, like, an Iron Hand. What am I typing in Iron Hands?
Okay, I'm gonna be honest. I'm dumping all my potions.
Damage calc.
I'm actually dumping everything.
I'm gonna show you this real quick. Zekrom. 252 attack, Zekrom. Bolt Strike in Electric Terrain.
You guys just don't understand the...
Let's put it versus, like, a Slacking, right? Bolt Strike is doing 78 to 92. And this takes up a restricted slot, right? Keep that in mind. And then you have Iron Hands. Terra Water Assault Vest, why not?
Literally, I made my opponent I used Throw no Jutsu.
Let's do, like, 252 attack like I did with the other one. Adamant Nature. Wild Charge in Electric Train is doing 68 to 78. Like, why would you... You're getting very similar damage along with, like, utility moves. And you don't have to run a Zekrom, right? Because Zekrom, this is 68 to 78, or this is 66 to 78. And Zekrom is 78 to 92. I get that, like, Zekrom could one-shot it if you, like, get, like, a life orb on it, but, like, you're gonna die to Fluttermane. This thing gets to run like an Assault Vest. Iron Hands gets an Assault Vest. And, like, yeah, Zekrom could run an Assault Vest, but it doesn't take a restricted slot and it gets Fake Out. You have to, like, think of the value. Yeah, it's a lot of damage, but think of the value. Think of the value. Anyways.
I was correct at dumping my hand.
Is Regai back to dual restricted? I wouldn't say back to dual restricted because we've never played that in Scarlet and Violet, but yeah, it is dual restricted, as the title said.
Also, I hope your stream was good.
How about Groudon Kyogre? Is this an April Fool's stream? No, it's 11:41 here. We're just talking about Regulation I. All right. So, what am I looking for? Groudon Kyogre actually isn't historically like the worst. Groudon Kyogre is solid because you always get like weather control. And I guess like Kyogre hates the Miraidon matchup, but Groudon loves it. And like Groudon hates like the Calyrex Ice matchup, but Kyogre loves it. There's like weird synergy here. It takes a very particular type of player to make it work. The most successful Groudon Kyogre team from the last dual restricted format was, funny enough, it ran Golisopod. It was really weird. I'm not sure how to feel about it. I think if you had to run this, Tornadus is basically a must. But like it isn't so much that Groudon and Kyogre have anti-synergy, because like they've done fine before, right? They've done fine before. You just have to make sure they have Rain Up more often than you have like Sun Up. But the issue is that like the Pokemon that work well with Groudon have anti-synergy with Kyogre because they want to have their booster energy. Your Fluttermane wants booster energy, right? I guess you could run like Rillaboom, right? I guess you could run like Rillaboom. And then like Urshifu Rapid Strike. But then Urshifu Rapid Strike has anti-synergy with Groudon. It's like the Pokemon supporting them have worse synergy than like these two. It's interesting. So I don't think I would recommend it for this format, but it's like fine to test and check out.
I always see that you're makes me so happy.
All right, let me see. Eternatus Lugia Stall. Can someone ban that person? Hold on, mess with this. All right, that no. I'm just gonna do that. All right. Kyurem White Zama. I already talked about that. Special attacking Groudon with Koraidon. What, like Terra Fire Eruption? I don't think that's like a good idea either. Dual bikes. Dual bikes. That's actually an interesting one to talk about. Miraidon Koraidon. I guess Miraidon Koraidon is really good because you're able to run Raging Bolt. I guess this is less so dual bikes as much as it is Dragon Spam. Because you would always be like Terra Electric Raging Bolt with a Life Orb and then just go for maximum damage with your Thunderbolts and Thunderclaps. The thing is that like Koraidon really loves having... It really loves having like Rillaboom next to it just because it's like really solid at like covering for Kyogre or whatever. Not that it's weak to Kyogre, but it hates having to play that matchup sometimes because you just have to make sure you keep your Sun up. But I would say that like they both love having Ogerpon Cornerstone, or not Ogerpon Cornerstone, Ogerpon Hearthflame. So that's not terrible. They don't mind having Fluttermane. But I guess you would want... I don't know. The thing with like Miraidon is like it loves having the Trick Room option with like, you know, Farigiraf and freaking Iron Hands. But not having that work out so well because then you have like a super big ground weakness because of Raging Bolt's kind of awkward. I think Whimsicott's still good here. Whimsicott's still good. And I think that like if you're gonna run these two... What's your last mon? I guess Fluttermane isn't the worst. You get like a fairy type beyond like the Whimsicott. But you could also do Chi-Yu. Chi-Yu has great synergy with both of them. I think it'd be Chi-Yu, right? Yeah, Chi-Yu's like absurd next to both these because you always like love having Chi-Yu next to you. That could be it. That could be interesting. But yeah.
I'm Marsing them next time.
Yeah, it'd be called Biker Gang. Rising Voltage? Oh, Rising Voltage. Yeah, I guess you could do that. Just got the top 50 on the Reg I ladder. Hey, nice. What does the Reg I ladder even look like right now? How many players are even on it? Reg I, best of 1, 1430. Top 50 would be like 1205. Okay. 1200s. Wonder how high we can get tonight. What about best of 3? Best of 3 is definitely gonna be lower, right? Oh wait, that's battle spot singles. Ladder. Reg I best of 3. 1280 is like number 1. Oh my god. Top 50 and this is stupidly low. 1149. Yeah, the ladder just started today, so that makes sense. Are there any other dual restricteds I could think of? What's your opinion on Zacian and Kyogre teams? They're probably gonna be pretty decent. Zacian appreciates having Kyogre next to it because it doesn't have to worry about like Chi-Yu anymore. Kyogre also really appreciates a lot of Zacian partners like Whimsicott, like Tornadus, like Regidrago. I think that's actually not a bad duo. I would actually say that it's like a pretty solid one to lock into for the beginning of the format, right? Zacian, Kyogre. I guess I would go Tornadus on this instead of Whimsicott. And then Regidrago is like really solid there. Rillaboom's also quite good. And then like last mon, you could do like Incineroar if you really wanted to, or some other Pokemon. I would even go for like Ogerpon Hearthflame. It's not terrible. Ogerpon Wellspring's actually super good. This seems pretty good. Yeah, you could even drop the Ogerpon for Urshifu. Yeah, I would actually say if someone wants to take this team and run it and just build it exactly how you think it's supposed to be built, you would get pretty far on the ladder right now. But yeah. Kyogre's Ammo might cook. Yeah, I mean, Kyogre's Ammo is going to be like pretty decent too. But at some point, y'all see the Showdown sprites? I don't think it's updated for me yet. If I refresh it, it'll update. So before I do that, I do want to say, we're probably done talking about my initial thoughts on the ladder. I do want to try to get some games and build like a team to actually use. So, you know, if you guys are watching this on YouTube after the fact, leave a like, subscribe, and let's build a team.